Good evening, Mrs. Enis Adrovic, Mrs. Mirsada Ducic-Čaušević, Mrs. Amira Mujinovic, Mrs. Amra Olovic, and good evening, Mr. Jevdet Tuzlic. First of all, excuse me for the pronunciation of your names, that I'm sure is not accurate, but I tried my best. Now a few words about my novel, my first novel indeed. The book is a first-person narration by the protagonist, 39-year-old criminal trial lawyer Guido Guerrieri, who recounts the events that make up his midlife crisis, including the court case that contributes to his redemptive recovery. Yes, I would say this is a book about fall and redemption. Guido Guerrieri has had problems of his own, with a disintegrated marriage, a bad dose of anxiety attacks, and a life spiraling downwards. The book begins with Guido separating from his wife, which leads to a subsequent psychological illness. He has panic attacks, suffers from insomnia, and most embarrassingly for him, feels like bursting into tears whilst in public. But he finds himself taking on the case of the Senegalese peddler Abdou Thiam and withstanding the pressure of the local prosecutors for a quick and decisive guilty verdict. Abdou has been arrested for the kidnap and murder of a 9-year-old boy, and the evidence against him is quite convincing, even if totally circumstantial. Guido believes he is innocent and takes the case. As Guido takes control of his own life, he starts to take control of the case of Abdou, who seems to have been charged simply because he was a convenient African, and a circumstantial case could be built. For most of the novel, Involuntary Witness is actually more of a character study, introducing readers to Guerrieri, following him through his time of crisis and watching him emerge out of darkness into a different person. Most of the meaning of the book is in the quotation by the Chinese philosopher Lao Tse at the beginning of the novel. What the caterpillar thinks is the end of the world, the rest of the world calls a butterfly. If you want the standard crime fiction novel and put action ahead of character, this may not be the right book for you. My novel has been classified as a legal thriller, but that's not exactly right. This is a differently constructed book from classical crime fiction or classical legal thriller that are basically plot-based. The novel is on Guido and his life and problems. This concentration allows the reader time to get to know Guido long before he takes Abdou's case and does his own thinking about the prosecution brief. This book has also been called roman noir, psychological novel, Bildungsroman, and also love story. I would also call it a novel or a story of transformation. Remember, what the caterpillar calls the end of the world, the rest of the world calls a butterfly. And while all these characterizations may be appropriate in part, I would like to add that this story is also a small parable on legal reasoning and legal practice, on prejudice and prejudgments, on truth and truthfulness. Thank you for listening.